should be live, I hope. There are 6 planets retrograde, so I'm not sure if we're live. I'm going to hope that we are here. So, hello, if you're hearing me, we are live. And welcome to the Dr. Elisa Show here on KUHS Denver, the stream. I'm checking all of my feeds to see if it's working. Inevitably, I do something with the technology that isn't quite right, but we're going to hope I've got it today. And nobody's come in to yell at me. And oh, somebody is. What do I not have right?
You're looking good.
Huh?
You're fine.
I'm fine. It's all correct.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Okay. Okay. It sounds like technology is working. Hey, welcome to the show. Today's going to be a little different, and I probably say that a lot, but today really is. And let me tell you why. So, for those of you who don't know, which is probably most of you listening, yesterday we're in the period called the High Holy Days in the Jewish faith. And yesterday was the 25-hour Yom Kippur fast. And fast of food and water, a full day of prayer. Most people try to equate this with a day of like apologizing and confessing sins, and while that might be part of it, understand that fasting has forever been, in every tradition, a way to open you spiritually and psychically. Native Americans fast when they go into a sweat lodge. We have evidence that all cultures at some point used some kind of fast as a transformational experience. So I'm always a little different the day after, and that was yesterday. It was my 25-hour fast. I'm trying to talk louder today because I've been told that it gets very soft. And so when I woke up this morning, let me get back, and Yom Kippur in some ways is a question. If you knew this was your last year, if you knew for a fact this was your last year of life on this planet, what would you do different? Who would you be? And I've said so many times on here that I want to live on the loose. I want to live walking in my power, speaking my truth without fear or apology. And I've tried to do it in sort of funny, friendly ways on the show, and today I'm feeling deeper. I'm feeling more resonant with that. I'm feeling a deeper sense of not just importance, but inevitability and energetic quickening around it. I hope some of that makes sense, and it must, because look, there's over 10,000 of you signing in, and you're still signing in from lots of places, and thank you, from Toronto and from New Jersey and from Massachusetts and from lots of places. And so today on the Dr. Elisa Show, yes, I have my books, and understand that if you read my novel, Dark Fire, you will get a taste of this, because it is about healing lineage wounds back through time to heal who we are and making that choice. It is a woman's book. My work is probably women's work, and if you're a guy listening, you might also resonate, and that's wonderful. But in many ways, I think that this notion of being able to be aware that life is fragile is built into women. Why? Because women give birth, and when women give birth, they're very close to dying. Women die all the time around giving birth, around being pregnant. I'm not going to do a political ad right now, but if you don't have that experience, you shouldn't make those decisions. I'm going to say that. And we spend our life in some sort of weird rush to make $1 million, to be thinner. I'm guilty of that. To make sure we find love, and then we miss it because it doesn't look like what it was supposed to look like. And so today, I want to talk about what would you do if, I don't want to just talk about it, we're going to actually dive into this. What would you do if you knew? You knew. Okay, so I'm going to make a pivot here. And I have to say that I'm not the person who believes all you need is love. That was a lovely Beatles song. I'm not the person who believes there's only two emotions in the world, love and fear. There's a lot, I have a Scorpio rising. I think there's a lot more going on than that. And some of that is the way we try to surround ourselves with information, with knowledge, with support, with wisdom, with keys to who we're supposed to be. What did my soul come here to do? And we miss those messages because we're looking somewhere else. We're trying to figure out who we should pay to figure out who to make $1 million. And you know what? I've got Facebook up, and you could jump in right now and say something like, if my Facebook is working, which I'm not sure it is, and say, yes, I know that. Or you could, if you're one of my clients, you could do a direct message to my phone. And I am trying to see if I'm live on Facebook, and right now I'm not finding it. So I guess I'll be live on Facebook in a minute. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that. But I'll get that piece of technology working, and I'd love to hear. Where are those messages? Well, you know, I'm an astrologer, and I believe those messages are pre-programmed into our charts. And that's what I help people do. I help people live on the loose by following, finding, embracing, and living their soul's dream, their soul's craving. And guess where else it's in? And this is where I have this amazing guest on. When I need answers, this is the woman I turn to. In case you don't know, look around, because I bet you have one of these. 70% of you listening have some kind of pet. And I know that sounds like a weird pivot, but it's not. Because we surround ourselves with something that makes no sense on some level, right? We're over here trying to make $1 million and get thin and find love, and then we get a dog, a cat, or a horse, and those are the top 3 pets in the United States. 70% of people have pets, and the top 3 in the U.S. are dogs, cats, and horses in that order. Worldwide, it's like 50% or 60% have pets, and cats rule over dogs, or come close. And I'm sure cats would agree with that. And we surround ourselves with these amazing creatures, and then we ignore them. We train them, we take them to daycare, we anthropomorphize them, we say, yeah, I'm doing the right thing for them, and then we don't understand that maybe they came to us as messengers, there's a reason we have that dog, that cat, that horse. And so I'm really sorry that my Facebook isn't showing me live and isn't letting me do this, but you can go to my Facebook site and you can just chat with me. You can go to the Dr. Elisa site. You can also go to my regular Facebook site if you feel like it and chat with me about this. And while you're doing that, here's my guest and here's this conversation we're going to have. So one of my dearest friends, and honestly one of the most ethical people I know in terms of the work she does, and one of the most unique, magical, mysterious, and I don't know another word for it, elegant work out there. Delaya, thank you for making time for me. I know this was a last minute thing. How are you doing today? How are you, what's going on? How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing well, but technology had other plans. As we can see, I'm kind of, we had a little issue getting on, but you know, here we are. So apparently it was meant to be.
Absolutely. So, I'm still not showing myself on live, but hey, that's okay. I'll figure that one out. So, you do this amazing work, and we have people joining us from all over the world, from Texas and Virginia and lots of places, and again, 70% of you have animals, so you should be listening to this. So first off, did I say that correctly, the work you do with animals? Like, can you maybe expand on that just a little bit? You
know, my strength and my calling per se seems to be that I can communicate with animals, but I don't do it like a normal animal communicator, they're great for helping you find out other things. And occasionally they'll all talk to them about something else, but
Right.
my focus is on the soul purpose. Why is your animal with you? What is their sole purpose to be with you? And I mostly work with horses, because it's just the genre that I like to work with, but I have done dogs and a few other animals, but I focus on what the calling is, what that animal feels like, the reason they feel like they're in your life, and I find that almost all of them, occasionally there's a reading that is a little bit different, but mostly they are there to lend information and insight to their human. And it's truly amazing, some of the things that they say. And occasionally it will be that it's about them, that the human needs to step up and take notice, but usually it's about the horse being there with their journey to support their human. It's really amazing, the information that I get from that.
Yeah, I've read some of your stuff, lots of your stuff, and it blows my mind. It's like you're talking to teachers from every religious, spiritual tradition, incarnated into a horse. And
psychologists.
Yeah, psychologists and therapists and, relationship people, therapists, and from dogs, because you've worked with me with my dogs. And when we say soul, you and I both are spelling that S-O-U-L, my soul, as opposed to my only, right? My only purpose, right? Which is, okay. So, and again, if you're listening and you're just joining us from all these lovely places, Oslo and Connecticut and Manila and wherever, this is my amazing friend. Now we have 105,000 of you, almost 106,000 people listening. This is my amazing friend, Delaya Diana. Before we go any further, how do they find you? Because you need to contact this woman. How do they find you?
Well, I have two websites. One of them is truenorthequestrians.com. It's equestrians with an S, truenorthequestrians.com. And then also my name, Delaya Diana, DELAYADIANA.com. And you can contact me through either one of those sites.
And I will make sure I get her. In fact, I'm putting it in there right now. I'm going to put your name in my Facebook site, because we are now up on Facebook. So if you go to my Facebook site, you can find her in my notes on the Dr. Elisa show. So I want to get this sort of idea of how important this is, because like I said, I came out of High Holidays with this, okay, what if all I have is 1 year left? And came home to my dog. You were on the phone with me, that's what was so funny, who attacked me, right? Like, oh my God, you've been gone. I thought you left me for good. Even though I'd had a dog sitter come walk her, and my significant other had come and walked her, who's her dad, and I walked in. Why do we just miss that? We think they're just happy to see us. What else is going on, do you think, when we get home? Or you go out and the horses come running over. What is that?
I think they're reinforcing the relationship. Mm-hmm. They're reinforcing the fact that we've come together this lifetime. Mm-hmm. People think that dogs I think animals get dismissed a lot, which is really a source of grief and anger for me, because they think, oh, they're just an animal. Dogs are just dogs. They're so silly. They just live in the moment. And they do. Their senses keep them engaged in the moment.
Right.
They're not thinking about what happened earlier, although my one dog used to always remember something that he had left over there and had to go get it, or he was always the accountable one. But in general, their senses and their emotions are definitely in the moment, and that's not to say they don't carry forward trauma if we're not kind to them. Mm-hmm. But I think that they truly are in the moment and reinforcing all that we are together. Mm-hmm. They're not, oh yeah, she's home, yeah, whatever. They really are in the moment, and they're committed to moving forward in that relationship and reconnecting every time they see us.
It's so interesting as you say that, because then we all go pay money to learn how to meditate and be in the moment. Right?
Right.
Right?
But you know, animals bring us to the moment. You know, when
Yes.
we're petting a dog, this morning my dog came and put his feet on the side of the bed.
Mhm.
And he can get on the bed if he wants. He's a big dog, but he can get on the bed. But he just came and he put his feet on, and I couldn't even continue laying there. I actually sat up right then, and I just took his face in my hands, and I just, you know, stroked from his muzzle on back to his ears, and just looked him in the eye. It was just, there was all this communication that took place, and I can't even put it into words. I didn't think about it then, but now that you're asking me, it was about, we were walking through this journey together.
Mhm.
You know, we're doing this life together.
Mhm.
We're here to connect. Life throws curveballs. Life
Right.
does weird things sometimes, and life does amazing, wonderful things sometimes.
Right.
But he was just reinforcing, I'm here, we're here together. This is what we do, and I'm going to be here every step of the way. I'm right here.
I'm right here.
And just knowing that he's right there is such a comfort. It brings such stability also to me. My horses also bring tremendous stability to me.
Mhm.
And I try to provide that for them
Because
by always showing up as who I am in our relationship.
right.
Occasionally I'm human and I bring in junk with me, you know,
Right.
or I bring in angst or residual, the cooties that kind of hang on.
Right.
But in general, I try to come forward with who I am in my relationship with them to provide stability. And when I'm in that place, I can also receive what they're offering me.
Right.
If you come to your animals with chaos, then, you know, a lot of what they offer you just deflects off.
Right, right. And so in some ways, now some people hearing this, and I'd really like to hear from you, what kind of companion animal do you have? Go to my Facebook site and chat. I've been begging you to do that for 3 years. I'm about to give up. So just go, let me know, right? All 106,000 of you on the radio, just jump into the Facebook site and let me know. Because I think what happens is we expect, and I really want to see what you think about this, Delia, because this sort of just came to me, right? We end up not finding our human partner because we've created like this mythology about what that person has to be, right? They have to be hand in hand with us, a puzzle fit. We have to become one union together. They have to complete us, blah, 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 blah. And then we can't find that person who's simply offering us true love of some sort, right? Because we're looking for a fairy tale. I wonder if animals are here to teach us, no, this is what love is like. Does that
Right.
make sense to you?
Yes, and it's simple. And of course, we all know once you, especially with humans who have different philosophies on money and child rearing and honor and religion, all of that can cause more disruption within the relationship. But if we look at the basis of it, yes, our animals do offer what is truly important. Are we together in this? You know, are we there for each other?
Right, yeah.
We do, if we're able to do that, then the other things become smaller and more manageable, and they don't have as much influence. Because when we agree that we are together, we're more negotiable and we're more malleable. So say you have terrible differences between child rearing, whatever, which is really, really hard.
Absolutely.
But if you can come back to the thing that we're in this together, you just automatically become more negotiable. You aren't so rigid and attached to your original theories, and you aren't as committed to them. You're more committed to the relationship. So I think that when we see relationships that they're in a deadlock, they don't want to live, they don't want to give. And, you know, I'm not talking about, hopefully you're not with someone who's dishonorable.
Right.
But if with deadlock with someone, if you can remember what it's like to just commit to being together, you do become softer and more malleable.
Right.
And from there, you can co-create something else that has a whole different intelligence to it that may not be anything that you've learned separately or autonomously in your past. And instead, you start to co-create with what I call this co-intelligence that helps you to come up with your own philosophy. You know, pick a little bit here and there, or what if it's something that isn't already taught or whatever. It's just something that's unique to the two of you because you've committed to being together like you are with your dog or your horse or your cat or your bird, whatever.
Whatever, right. So, I mean, this is great because you're basically giving marriage advice, relationship advice. Right?
Not really qualified for that.
Well, that you got from your horse, right?
Yeah, really, truly. It's just, it all comes back to the basics. And it's, I think sometimes for people it's easier to do with animals because we don't have that spoken opinion from our animals. I mean, they do show us their opinion.
Oh my gosh,
But
yes.
especially with horses, you know, it's, well, yeah, your dog is very opinionated. My dog isn't very opinionated.
Right.
My cat's my cat. But I just deal with it because that's who she is. You know, this morning she enjoyed a bird in the bedroom. So even though I've asked her not to do that, she still enjoyed a bird in the bedroom and I had to clean it up. And she has bells on her collar and everything. She's just a long line of barn cats, and it's innate within her. But we've got down to we're about, you know, one bird a month now,
Okay,
so instead of 2 or 3 a week. But I go with who she is, and so my working with her is that, you know, I lock the doggy door sometimes, and I put bells on her, and I try to curtail some of her behavior so that it fits with my life. But I don't forbid it. I don't lock her in the house. I don't do things that are more extreme because we're in this together. We agreed to come together in this lifetime and allow each other to be who they are. So our animals don't have as much of a strong verbal opinion as other humans do, and that makes it a little bit harder with a human. But if we can still, there again, go back to connecting to we're in this together, we just have so many more tools to work with and so much more malleability within our relationship and within our life, how well that we can come up with something entirely different that will serve us both.
Right. So for people who are just joining and staying, and you're still joining from amazing places, hello for England, hello Missouri, hello Oklahoma, hello London, hello places I can't pronounce, hello Houston, Texas, Eugene, Oregon, Somerville, New Jersey. Thank you for joining, and you might think we're talking marriage counseling. You might think we're talking relationship counseling, and we're really talking, and this is, you know, this is me showing up. I know I've said on this show before, I'm coming out. Yes, I've got a PhD in psych. I have a master's in a hard science. I have a I have more academic degrees than like more 3 people need. And I'm an astrologer. And I believe that we do well when we have a foot in both worlds. We listen to our gut, we listen to our sort of psychic sense, our empathic sense, and science has documented empaths in the world, and I'm one, and Delaya's one. And yes, we believe in science, and we believe in both, and we don't polarize those. You know, we sort of have a non-binary world view here, right? It's a mixture, it's a dance. And so if you just joined us, I'm, you know, sort of talking astrology a little bit. There are 6 planets retrograde. If you're feeling slowed down, call, you know, email me, elisarobin@msn.com. Robin has a Y, spelled ELISAROBYN. Jump into my Facebook site, the Dr. Elisa Show, or Elisa Robin, or go to my website, elisarobin.com, or find me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on TikTok, and on Instagram. I'm easy to find. My guest, Delaya, is talking about the lessons, the messages from horses, from dogs, from cats. She works mostly with horses of any size. So if you have a miniature horse that you are training as a support animal, she works with those. They don't need to be huge. She's also worked with me with my dog. I actually picked the dog I have based on some readings she did, and she was like dead on right. And we're talking about there are messages, like we came here with some instructions, with some guides, and we just have to find them. And to find them, we need to let go of what we believe, what we've been taught is the one true and right way, the rules, the only way to do it. Life on the loose is saying no. There's other answers, and they're inside me, and they're in these other places. Okay, so back to Delaya here. You want to add something to that?
I would like to inject something here. I've known you a long time, over 30 years.
Oh my God, it's
and
crazy.
You've always been different, you know, and that was always your challenge when you picked a career that was very linear and had a lot of rigidity to it, and you've never ever been like that. I remember one time you were saying that I think it was your mother or somebody was lactose intolerant but wanted to have cereal all the time. And you said, if you want your cereal wet, put apple juice on it. It's like, okay, it doesn't have to have milk on it. Who said it has to have milk?
Right.
We're always outside the box. And the term that I use for that, yours is life on the loose,
Right.
but I use the term between the worlds. So I feel like a real change actually takes place between the worlds. So when you're living life on the loose, you're not tied to your past training, you're not tied to your past beliefs, you're not tied to your past philosophy. Now you're free to go and explore other things. And so for me, I would say that's between the worlds. And most of the information I find to be truth or applicable to life is actually found between the worlds. It's not between my world of what I know or between the world of my horses. When I'm working.
Oh, we just lost you. Can you hear me? I just lost you. I think you muted yourself. I know. Try again. Yes. Okay. Talk.
No, it's my phone today instead of the computer, and a call came in, even though I've got it on silent.
No.
Sorry about that.
6 planets, 6, 5, or I lost count. Are still retrograde. All the major planets are retrograde. So we just go with it. Okay. So between the worlds.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Between the worlds.
So I think that once you do start your life on the loose, then you are free to go between what you've learned
Yes.
and what is possible. Whether it's you're trying to find, a new philosophy in life, a new spiritual philosophy, a new philosophy on relationships,
Mm-hmm.
a new job that aligns with a different philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to figure out, how are you going to marry between what you are and what you've always been and what you've learned versus what is possible? And it's all going to take place when you're off the loose, when you're not tied to what you are doing and you're not tied to what the new job expects or to what the new relationship expects.
Right.
But between those worlds, it's how you're going to actually get the information that will be something that creates something entirely different, or at least it has more options to the assumptions that
Mm-hmm.
we've always had.
Right. I love that, and I'm wondering, why are we so afraid of that? Do you have a sense? Like I think people, we feel so much more comfortable when someone says, here's the way to do it. Here's what you should believe. Here's how this works. And it's scary to, like, I talk about setting sail with no navigational gear. That's scary, right? How does this relationship with horses help us? Or dogs or cats or birds or lizards or whatever. How does that help us?
I think that if we approach them with mutual respect and honor, that there's so much information that we can have, so much information. And what they will do is they will cause us to detach from the assumptions that we've always had.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do that, we realize that the options are limitless. And I've been doing this a lot with my horses. My latest horse that I have, Enchantress, is really different than any other horse that I've ever had. And she has a lot of her own ideas, and she doesn't like to be told anything. She likes to work with you. So it's caused me to challenge everything that I've learned in the past. Not everything. We have basic safety about, so much space. They don't step on you, all that. But she has caused me to explore ways to grow together, to ride together, and to work together on the ground just to be who we are. She's caused me to explore new frontiers to me. And you were talking about, we always want a navigation, or we want someone to say, yes, this is the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's because we do want someone to back us up and go, yeah, you're doing right, which as a coach is what you can do,
Right.
only you do it with life on the loose without those boundaries of
Right.
what you've learned. And I lost my train of thought on that, but we want someone to back us up.
Right.
But in a new frontier, sometimes we don't always have someone to back us up. If we have a coach like you, they will back us up. You do that with me because you coach me.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't have that, it's kind of easy to throw in the towel, or to just go and get back in the herd or get back in with a pod, because we, as humans, we need something to support us. So if we've dedicated to leaving the flock, leaving the herd, leaving the masses, and going into something different, we either need a coach like you, or someone like me that can help give
Right.
information and backup from your animals if that's where you find support and comfort, or we have to be willing to kind of be adrift for a while and just kind of tie into the intuition and faith as to what we believe is calling us to this different pathway. And as humans, it's just kind of hard to do that. So I think it's always easier if we have some kind of a coach or a community that aligns with, yes, go your own course. Yes, life on the loose. Yes, find out this information. There's safety between the worlds. This is where you need to go.
Right.
So we have to pick something, because otherwise it's just really, really hard to, I mean, the lone wolf theory is beautiful and all that, but I have to am a lot of a lone wolf, and it's very, you can be very alienated when you're a lone wolf. Absolutely. When you always kind of live out, color outside the lines, and when you do that, people don't really understand you, and the more alone you are, the easier it is to be alone, and then you tend to isolate. So that lone wolf thing is really beautiful, but lone wolves don't usually live very long. Okay, because they need a partner to hunt. So,
we tend to like those kind of phrases, right? I'm a lone
we
wolf,
do.
right? And and they might work for a while, right? And then you're at some point you're like, well, what's my point? Again, if I have a year left to live, do I want to be a lone wolf? Maybe, but is that what do I want to do while I'm being a lone wolf? Even if you think about religious groups that have silence as part of their tradition, they're doing it together. They're doing silence together, right? So there is a support system there, and yet we turn away from, yesterday with 25 hours of fasting, so many people have said to me, what's the point? I'm like, it puts you into that world where there is no navigation. It separates you from your pattern of life and from what from everything. And so many traditions do that. So we still have people joining us. Thank you, Australia and Austria and Connecticut and Oklahoma and Virginia. Thank you for joining us, and jump into my Facebook site and say something. I'd really appreciate it. So Delaya, what I'd love to hear, because it's amazing, do you have a few short things you can read us from some of your more
I do.
amazing horses?
Yeah. And these are all shared with permission from the people that I do the readings for.
Okay.
And I have this one horse that he and his partner, his human partner, really do have a tremendous relationship. They've got a long love story fraught with, peril and betrayal and reconnection. And in the end, they always come back together. She has rehomed him, I think, 3 times, and he behaves so badly, he comes back to her every time. And she rehomed him because she felt like she couldn't afford him, to give him the life and he's a dressage horse, to give him the life and the notoriety that he needed, but he only wants her. His life is to be with her.
Wow. And
so these are a couple of excerpts from his reading with her, and I know this woman, and some of the things that he talked about I never saw in her, so it's just those are the things that are private between the two of them, but he knows her truly deeply. And these are some things, just a couple of quotes. He says, "When you align with acceptance, you become the dance of surrender. This is not the same as losing. Surrender becomes its own interpretation of individuality and power. It becomes a life of its own, and it is immune to outside influence. This is a safe place to be." And as a person who resists surrender and acceptance, I tend to resist a lot on, no, that means I'm giving in, it means I'm losing.
Right, yeah.
And I think she feels that way too, which is why he talks a lot about her resistance and how that she identifies with her resistance. But he talks about surrender. Surrender is really your own interpretation of individuality and power. Surrender is a safe place to be.
Wow.
I think that just to be a brilliant take on surrender. I've never really heard a human talk about that.
No.
And I've had some counseling and, professional help before, and I've never heard anyone talk about that. They do talk about, defending yourself, standing up for yourself. But with him, standing up for herself caused her to become more flexible and more powerful in a place where she fought less. So it wasn't about her losing anything.
So it's sort of surrendering to who you really are, right? On some level?
Surrender into your own power. So that means you stop resisting, you stop fighting.
Wow. Wow. And we still have people joining us. This is great. Thank you. This is like something you'd pay a lot of money to go to somebody's workshop and meditate and have them say this to you, and then you'd buy their book and you'd read that 5 times and underline it, right? And
Right.
as opposed to your horse or your,
Right.
can you share something? This is like amazing. Can you share something else?
Yes. I actually will share from a dog named Ember.
Okay.
She says, you are innately brilliant, but you sought for ways to name, conform, and moderate this brilliance so that it would be acceptable to others in your world. But others in your world were never going to see what you really are. And this is your dog.
This is my
And
dog.
I didn't tell you I was going to read from her.
No, and
but
I'm going to cry. Oh my God, I feel like I'm going to, and I've been crying since I stopped fasting last night, and I feel like I'm going to cry over that. Oh my gosh.
But this is so, it's so spot on to your program, your philosophy of life on the loose. And like I told you, well, like you said, you have all these degrees, and you picked a career that would demand that you comply, only that you picked people that were never going to see who you really are.
Right, yeah.
And the dog picked up on this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll move on to another one in case you need to regroup.
Okay.
I have several of them on here.
Okay, good.
This is from a mayor in Canada. Her name is Dido, and she says, it's not always easy to make peace with what is, horse or human. Sometimes it makes no sense, and there is struggle, strife, and disconnect. We all have dreams, and many will never arrive at those dreams. So, do we fight and display anger and danger, or do we find a way to reach into the dark and create what we can from the grief, estrangement, and disappointment? This is really reconciliation. If you do not learn to reconcile, then you have chronic discontent and you suffer more.
Wow.
She said, I had to slowly and painfully make my way to the understanding of what was lost and what was found. I had to learn about forgiving and trust. I had to learn there was more to my life than my dreams. I had to learn that I had purpose, and then I had to understand that my purpose would save me. I had to learn that I could be satisfied and be of benefit at the same time. This is reconciliation. And the wisdom in that
Wow,
is
that's
just
amazing.
mind-blowing to me.
Again.
And this was a horse that's learning it.
I know.
So maybe the horse, they don't have as much interference from what we've been taught. So a horse is a little able to maybe access, some horses, more pure information without all of the interference of the shoulds and the should nots and the blame and the accountability.
You know, again, I've seen, and you know this, I've had this recently, right, tuned into several sort of coach programs, right, like how do you build your business, and also seen lots of people with trying to sell things on like how to find yourself and how to grow who you are, I mean, blah, 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 and I have the answer, and hundreds of thousands of dollars that we're investing in this, right, and trying to grab on to somebody else's belief that isn't even personalized. It worked for them. And here we have with us these companions that we just write off as being like not having, you know, not being very bright, frankly. And this wisdom comes out of them. It's incredible. So were you blown away when you started doing this work?
Absolutely blown away. And I was frustrated with myself because I've known that horses have reached out to me for years and years, and it wasn't until just a few years ago that I started writing all of this down and making it an actual program or a service that I offer to the people. And actually, my intention is a service to the horse, to let them be heard. Because some, you know, and even with our own animals, sometimes it's harder. We're so close, it's harder. I do get this information from my horses. More of it is intuitive rather than what I channel, because I basically channel with the other animals. I just process better when I write, and I have less interference from my thoughts when I write versus when I talk directly from the animal. So I find that it's a little bit more linear and easier to understand when I channel it for the people.
Right.
But my intention was actually in the beginning was to speak for the horses, and I had no idea that their intention was so clear to help their people. This is another interesting one. This is from a mare named Kisses, and she's also in Canada. And she says, this is a good conversation to have, the boundaries of joy. Joy needs to know that we are committed to its well-being. Joy that has been betrayed and belittled will hide itself away. It's important to know what brings you joy and what joy brings to you. This is not always obvious because sometimes neither horse or human are fortunate enough to be educated in the art of joy. Boundaries around joy are as necessary as boundaries about abuse, because a life without joy is difficult, and when our joy is threatened or condemned, that is abusive. Protecting the birthright of joy is essential. I just find this is amazing.
This is
I
incredible.
never thought about having boundaries around joy. We think of boundaries about don't abuse me, don't dismiss me, but she talks about the boundaries of joy.
Which is like
It's
protecting it, right? Like on some,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
So you know what this reminds me of? And I'd love to hear from our listeners, of which we have, you know, quite a few out there and still joining. This reminds me of the Course in Miracles. And right where the woman channeled, and I'm not sure, I think she was supposed to be channeling Jesus. I don't study the Course in Miracles, but a lot of you out there do. And you're fine with this woman channeled this information, and from something divine, she never even believed it, and then everybody studies it. And you're getting that kind of deep, incredible information, and people might write it off because, well, it came from my dog, it came from my horse, it came from, you know, it didn't come from the guy who made $1 million on his bestseller and has a workshop. It came from this creature that is with me, you know, in my case all the time. Well, she's not here right now, but a lot, right? Or with the ones that we spend so much time with. It's almost like we have to go out. What is that thing you always say to me? You can't be a prophet in your own.
A prophet is not without honor, save in his own country.
Right.
And that's mostly a Bible scripture, and I'm not real big on the Bible, but I was raised with it, so I know that scripture, and it's so true that people within your own community most of the time will dismiss you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they may love you and they wish you well, but they truly don't acknowledge your success if it isn't a success that you met them with.
Right.
Although again, Life on the Loose, so like when your program with Life on the Loose, once we're on the loose or we're in between those worlds, as I say, we're going to find that our friendships may morph. Because not because some of your friends may, or your family may truly just dish you and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people just won't know how to manage you. So I find that when I came out about doing channeling with these horses, mostly, and animals, a lot of times my friends just avoid the conversation. They don't bring it up because they don't know what to do, because I wasn't doing that when I met them.
Right.
And it's not that they wish me harm. I know they wish me well in whatever it is that I go to do. If I decide to be a painter, they're going to wish me well.
That's right.
But people sometimes don't know how to relate to you when you make a change. So when you do take the leash off and you start to make changes, people in your life may react in ways that are not predictable. It may be favorable. They may pat you on the back or placate you. So I think you have to be willing to set off in that without navigation for a little while until you can kind of find your own footing there and find your own information as you're off leash, and kind of start to reinvent your identity, and then let people decide if you're still a part of their life or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people won't be able to. Most people probably will with adaption.
But it is fascinating because I know, you know, for a while I was trying to do online dating, right? And to the Jewish guys, I was too Jewish, or not Jewish enough. To the people who said, well, I'm spiritual but not religion, the astrology freaked them out. The people who said, the guys who said, well, I like intelligent women, and I showed up with the PhD, and they're like, right, and I was an academic dean, and they're like, oh, you're intimidating. Like, that's not my problem. That you feel intimidated, right? And so there's this box that somehow we want to meet a person who fits this it's like Amazon. I really like that one. I'd like it in a medium and in the other color, and can I get it delivered overnight? And that's how we want life to be, right? And,
Right.
and what our animals are saying to us is, yeah, it doesn't work that way. Right? You're going to have to meet life. You're going to have to step out of who you thought, who you were socially programmed to be, perhaps. You're going to have to step out and meet life and meet joy and meet your horse and your dog, whoever. To
Meet yourself.
Live. Meet yourself. To truly live. Right? That's what they're saying to you. And we still have people coming in, some Denver and some Ontario. And I know you're on a time frame, so we just got a few
There is
minutes.
one quote I would like
Go
to
for it.
say from a horse named Gypsy based on what we were just talking about.
Okay.
And she says, there is power in knowing yourself, not as others see you, but as you see yourself from the inside. For some, this can also be a battleground, a death fight, and a place of betrayal. That is because they look with eyes from the outside. Anytime you look at yourself with the eyes of inner honesty, there will be no judgment. Looking at yourself from the eyes of outer judgment will cause you to overlook the very things you're looking for, and you will overlook the important parts of yourself.
Wow.
Which actually goes right back into
Right.
that. I thought it was interesting that she said, when you look at yourself with inner honesty, there's no judgment. It's only when you look at
Right.
yourself with the eyes of others will you see judgment.
Right, yeah, because then we're doing comparison. This person's richer,
Right.
this person's thinner, this person, whatever. Looks like they have it all, and whatever, right? So I know we're on and we just got a couple minutes left. I know you're on a time frame. Slowly, how do people find you, and how do they get a reading from you? I would just give us all the details.
Okay, well, I'm Delaya Diana, and my main business is True North Equestrians. So it's True, TrueNorthEquestrians.com.
And the S is important. It's plural. It's got to be plural to work. It's
It
very
is
important.
plural, yes, it's plural.
Okay.
Or my name,
Mhm.
DelayaDiana.com, DelayaDiana.com.
Mm-hmm.
Either one of those, you can reach me, and I can do readings for you. I have programs for people who want to do like a program with their animal towards more self-discovery. I have a program called the Equestrian Namaste.
Mm-hmm.
It's how do we meet animals how do we meet the divine within our horse, the same as the divine within ourselves.
And
we
somebody
can do
with
it.
somebody with a big dog, like also right. It's the quest, and so it might. I know horses are your specialty, and yet I have to say you're amazing with dogs, and probably
Thank you,
similar
Kat.
with cats. I think anyone
Thank you.
who has that relationship with their animal could work with you. Okay, so keep going. You have that program.
I have several of them. I have the agreement quest, which is how we find out what our agreements are. I don't call them soul contracts.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is kind of a little bit of a different thing, but I have a program that we can find out what our agreements are with our animals,
Mm-hmm.
and what their agreements are with us. If we both have agreements, if only one of us has agreements. I have another one that's on disconnect. If we're disconnected with them, what is the disconnect? How do we identify that? I have a program, what is called the Secret World of Horses, which is my big program, and it covers all of those classes as well as personalized programs on the journey between you and your horse.
Okay.
We could do it with a dog.
We could do it
So
with
I go to my website, and I have some free offers on there. I have lots of videos that talk about readings from that I did with other animals, and they've all been given with permission. I never share anything they're reading unless I have permission, because it's private. And lots of people don't want me to share because it is so private.
Right.
It's just so personal.
Right.
One woman told me she had a spiritual ass kicking.
Wow.
And I thought that was interesting. But her horse was really just spot on, and her horse was here. I don't want to waste time. This is what is going on. So they're really very detailed. You can get information from that. I have lots of videos that share excerpts from readings. So if you want more information on that, visit my website, True North Equestrians. That's the one that has all the videos and the freebies on it.
And somebody can just start with just a reading and send you,
Yes,
they have to send you a
absolutely.
picture, right?
Yes.
Right. So you have
Yes.
to have a.
And all that information is on the Soul Purpose reading page on my website, yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I know you have to go, so thank you, thank you, thank you. I've got just like 4 minutes
Thanks for
left in the
having
show,
me.
and we will chat soon, I'm sure.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. All right, so if you were listening to that, and there were a lot of you listening to that, come on, there's, tons of you, then, reach out. And here's why. I want to go back to this, and I've got all of 4 minutes, and then you get Henry, and I know tons of you just are tuning in for Henry and the jazz music. I know that's what you're tuning in for. But if you caught some of this, I just have to say that this is still like, this is amazing work. And this is an amazing way to feed your soul, to give you the sense of guidance. Just think about this for a second. Everything on the planet has instructions. Everything, right? We get food. We get like a taco wrapped in something, and it says remove wrapper. Like you wouldn't know to do that. Do you think we were really born with nothing here to guide us? Nothing? And it's the only guide we have, the thing that you were taught that has made you feel restricted and contained and forced you into a mold that you know isn't yours to live in. There's other messages. Astrology is a powerful one. If you're wondering, I've said this before, if Hashem created the world and put all the lights in the sky, and you were born at a time that was important for you to be born there, and the angels maybe helped you be born at that time, there's a reason that you're in alignment with the stars. The stars have a message for you. So that's and because Jewishly, yes, we do use astrology. There's nothing evil about it. And that we have these animals, we have these other ways of knowing. If we would break out of the bonds of what we think is perfect, and if we'd stop trying to convince everybody else that the way we do it is right, if we'd stop having to join groups that yell and scream about this is the one true and right way. We were never meant to be like that. Yes, we join groups, and yes, we align, and yes, we find a way that our soul is resonant with the people around us. And yes, that's important. Community is vital. But it doesn't mean other people are wrong. It doesn't mean that your way is the only way. It doesn't mean the way that you were thrown into. If it's not working for you, guess what? And even if your community is working for you, your community needs you to live your truth. What is that truth? When you go into the silent place inside you that might be scary, what do you hear? I can help you with astrology, and trust me, Delaya can help you with her readings. So thank you. I am out of time. I hope you connect with me, ElisaRobin.com, ElisaRobin@msn.com, Elisa Robin on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on TikTok, and my website, ElisaRobin.com. I hope you find me, and I hope you connect, and I hope that I can help you find, embrace, and live your soul's craving, because that's what you're here to do. So, what do I wish for you? I wish for you a year, it is now 5783, the Jewish year, of health, of joy, of laughter, of self-discovery, of keeping your flame alive, and of living on the loose.